Good afternoon and welcome to Moving Through Menopause. I'm here having a chat with Claire Ottewell, and Claire is an aromatherapist and a medical astrologer, and she has just this fascinating mind full of amazing facts and fabulous information. And so this morning I'm going to be picking Claire's brains as we navigate through this topic of intimate health. And so, not to put too fine a point on it, menopause brings its challenges in this department, and vaginal dryness is definitely something that many women experience. And, maybe we're not talking about it even yet still enough. So we will be tackling that as a topic area. We'll be talking about the kinds of things you can do nutritionally to help, and with natural approaches, herbal medicines and herbal remedies, shall we say, and also movement approaches. So welcome to Claire. Hello, Claire. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Philippa, on this wet, dark day.
Oh, is it wet where you are? It's nice here where I am.
It is, yeah.
So, and I know you have your own experiences of a premature surgical menopause, and and I think that the sudden nature of the hormones suddenly disappearing all at once has consequences that are perhaps more pronounced even than those of us who approach it in a more kind of gradual way. And so maybe you have some experiences that you can share with us as well.
I didn't know what you were going to say when you said you've got your own. I was thinking you're going to.
Oh yeah, sorry. Journey.
Yes. So absolutely. So I had obviously heard of this problem. I was aware that getting a dry vagina was part of menopause, was an expected part of menopause, like most of the symptoms we get with menopause, which we just accept, as opposed to actually looking at fundamentally the underlying causes and treating them. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about today, is the fact that you don't have to just go, oh, I've got a dry vagina, oh dear, I'm in menopause, and just live with it, because it's most uncomfortable for the first thing. But yes, so my entry into the world of menopause was very abrupt. And I did experience this problem, not least because I don't have a cervix either. I had the whole lot removed, a full filleting, as I like to say. And I didn't realize that would have an implication. Certainly when we were discussing that surgically, it wasn't something that came up. Oh, by the way, do you realize that, you're going to be extra dry? And then what dry vaginas actually lead to, which is, smells. It can smell more because it's dehydrated, which could be really shocking. You're like, oh, what's that smell? Oh my God, it's me, which is horrible. Really kind of, takes that whole mental health side of menopause to another level, really. And the body image and all of that kind of thing. And it's uncomfortable, puts you off having sex, because you're like, oh God, you feel ashamed of the fact that, you can't be how you were. And that again has consequences, far-reaching consequences for your relationships, your self-esteem, how you feel about your body. It's not great, really, is it? The whole thing. And the fact that this isn't discussed, which is why we're doing this today. So to say to people, these are the things to look out for and not to be ashamed of. And these are the things that you can do about it.
Can I just say, do you know what, Claire? You said this is something that people know is part of menopause. Well, I didn't. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea that was even possible. So yeah, interesting. And the other thing is, I was watching a television medical program the other day, and it was actually it was all about like an STD clinic on television. I mean, honestly, what will they think up next? And there was a young woman on there who had vaginal dryness. So actually, it isn't necessarily just the domain of the menopausal individual. It is something that can just be, I guess, a genetic predisposition. I mean, of course, that's what we're here to talk about. But it was interesting to me to discover that it isn't just something that you might experience in menopause, but that potentially, this may be something that people experience. And, and like you said, all that, the lack of awareness, the potential for shame associated around it, body image, relationships, entering into a relationship. She was talking about entering into a relationship. When do you introduce into a conversation, the fact that you need lubrication to have enjoyable, intimate relations? When does that come up in conversation? And so, and the single women, plenty of single, middle-aged, wonderful women like us, Claire, looking for, new beginnings. And so again, having those conversations may in fact be it may be something that we have to broach with partners and such like. But you know what, Anne Summers, I think she's probably done a lot for this. In as much as it is, at least it's on the high street now. Never used to be there, did it? Talking about sex and getting open with sharing. Raising your eyebrows.
No, just the word there, getting open. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, getting open.
So yes, anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry. Important. No, carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say that absolutely it's not the domain of just the young person, because it's a problem which can be treated using the right tools. And it's one of the biggest culprits of dry vaginas is dehydration. And people don't think about that. The fact that, you need to be lubricated all the way through. And if you don't drink enough water, then your skin cells are going to, or your skin's going to dry out. So that creates a problem in itself. So that's a really quick and simple way of tackling a dry vagina, is making sure that you're properly watered up and lubricated. Like, people aren't eating enough good fats or enough omegas, 3, 6, 9. We need these good fats in our diets. Our brain is 60% fat. If you don't give your body the right resources, then you can't expect it to do its job properly. It's simply that. And we live in this culture where everybody is so obsessed with being kind of, micro size. Size 0, looking like this, etc., not eating carbs, not eating this, not eating that. And the balance has gone out of nutrition, and that's having a detrimental effect on people's skin elasticity, not getting enough vitamin C. That's another massive one. Vitamin C helps you to build collagen. Collagen gives you stretchy skin. You need collagen throughout your body. So it's kind of like eating, I'd supplement. If I had a dry vagina, which I luckily don't, because I do take a lot of vitamin C and supplements, etc., then that's what I'd be recommending to people. Take more vitamin C, take more omegas, look at your diet. What are you eating? Are you drinking enough fluids? Are they the right fluids? That kind of thing. If you're going to drink a lot of alcohol, and quite often a lot of alcohol can lead to sexual intercourse, then, you've got to, it does, doesn't it? Can do. Inhibitions go, all that kind of stuff. And just to be aware of the fact that, that's quite dehydrating. So you're creating the perfect storm. Just got to think about these things. I was reading that one of the great tips you can do with your omega, it's the primrose oil, evening primrose oil, is you can actually put a little hole in one of your capsules and use that internally, and that'll give you a nice natural lubricant. So that's for kind of, on the go when you're caught out.
Well, I don't know that I have an evening primrose oil capsule in my handbag, Claire. I'm going to have to get some now, though, of course. So the thing of, with regards to lubrication, like you said, from within, to begin with, definitely hydration. Massive. We're massively dehydrated. So many of us, so much of the time. And so, the fluids, the right fluids, rather than, lots of coffee and tea draining us dry.
And fizzy drinks, things like that, things with sugar in them, anything that your body's going to have to use more water, more of its resources to get rid of, basically.
Yeah, I'm always reminded of school, chemistry at school, and the semi-permeable membranes, and the water on one side, and the molecules, more molecules on one side and less molecules on the other, and the tendency for this, it's homeostasis, isn't it? But the balance, so that if you're ingesting something that is highly concentrated, then the tendency is for the water to be pulled out of the cells, rather than, the opposite, which is to use clear fluids that don't have sugar or salt in them, and then the fluid is more likely to be going into the cells.
Yes, a big culprit of that is dried fruit, which people think, oh, eating dried fruit, oh, that's going to be really kind of, healthy. That's a great health alternative. But it needs to be rehydrated for the body to use it. So it's really dehydrating and can lead to quite a lot of kind of flow problems.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? I would never have thought of that. But I have done what do you call it when you fill your, I know, making Christmas cake. That's when I've done it. You have to kind of rehydrate it before you put it in Christmas cake. So, if it's good enough for a Christmas cake, it's good for
that brandy that you're putting in the Christmas cake. So I wouldn't rehydrate yourself with brandy.
No, probably not. So hydration, definitely important. And then the fats, like you say, nutritional fats, the food industry has just jumped on board this whole, health food kick, which, to label foods healthy or low in sugar or low in fat, and usually invariably those are filled with all sorts of other ingredients that are nutritionally devoid of nutrition.
Benefits, yeah, absolutely, nutrition.
And so someone here is just telling us that they definitely agree that we've got to rehydrate our dried fruit. It hadn't occurred to me, to be fair, but so anyway. The fact that food is, just because it's got a green traffic light on it, doesn't make it a health food in my book. And the fact that it's in a packet at all probably is giving you a clue. So stick with whole foods, single ingredient foods, and then just put them together in your own kitchen. I was just about to say oregano, but what I meant was avocado.
Which is great, yeah.
I love avocado. You could put it on your face, you could eat it. I mean, I'm not sure if it goes anywhere else, Claire.
I was just thinking that, and I wouldn't recommend that. Could be messy, but could be fun. Depends where you want to take things. But certainly an excellent thing to eat, and full of very good fats, and the fats that we need. And yeah, you're right. The food industry has done a real number on fats, and they haven't actually explained to people what they want is the good fats, not the bad fats. And so people just read fats and go, oh no, I don't want any of those. And they're actually starving their brains and their bodies of essential building blocks to keep them well, really.
Yeah, so lots of good fats and to keep the tissues hydrated. Are there any sort of we were talking about lubrication, and you mentioned evening primrose oil, and I know that I did a podcast not very long ago with a lady, Lavinia, forgotten her second name, and Lavinia works alongside the Yes Company, who manufacture and sell natural lubricants, and I just remember that she was talking about the water-based versus oil-based, and this potential for interacting with a condom. Oil-based lubricants can interact with condoms and potentially make them ineffective. So if that is a concern, then any advice that we give, obviously it's always important to do your homework and make sure, because there is always the exception that proves the rule, isn't there, Claire?
Absolutely, and as you're right, it is well. Everything is down to the individual ultimately, is to choose what they choose to use, because what may work for one may not work for another. And then you've got the whole thing with condoms of latex free versus latex, and
Yeah.
where you go with that. So you've got to
Yeah,
make sure.
I mean, I think that's right. You know, even just as far as down to your underwear, cotton underwear, breathable underwear, synthetic fabrics. Maybe they're stretchy, maybe they have invisible nickel lines, but you know, they're really no good for the
The
flora and fauna.
of the vagina. No, then definitely not. And that goes with anything that you put on your body. So if you've got these issues, you've got a dry vagina, you need to make sure that you're not using perfumed body products to try and kind of eradicate smells or change things up. That's going to add to the problem. And as you're right, disturb the kind of microflora and fauna, which is, it's just not worth it. And there's so many natural ways that you can kind of improve the way you smell by using more natural products, because we are literally what we put on our bodies and in our bodies. So underwear, clothing, deodorants. Like, I know there's a really big thing about American women like to put douche up
Oh,
their vaginas to try and help them smell nice. And I just think, God, you are literally just wiping out all the kind of good bacteria.
mm.
What
So well, that's right, and it is. You know, we do have a microbiome in these. You know, the nasal microbiome, the gut microbiome, and then the vaginal. It has a colonized in a way that you know, if the colony's good bacteria, then everything's going good, and if we get out of balance, then that might be a time when you get odors, say. And so, like you say, washing them all out isn't necessarily the way forward, is it? Um,
No, absolutely. And yeah, and that makes me think of thrush as well, which can be a byproduct of kind of getting your microbiome out of balance down there, which is created by the underwear, by being dehydrated, by just not looking after your health, because the candida kind of gets out of balance, doesn't it, and creates the thrush. Um,
well, you know, I've always had very dry skin all over my external body, and it didn't really translate into the mucosal membranes.
right.
Luckily, I guess.
Yeah.
But what that meant was I have very sensitive skin, and so I've never been able to use biological washing powders. Say, for instance, I've never used um, clothing conditioner. I've never used things that you put in your tumble dryer to make them smell nice. I've never used perfume shower products or you know, I mean, the tampons can have perfume, toilet paper can have perfume, and what's the other thing? Panty liners can have perfume. So all of these are things that potentially, that maybe once upon a time, your body could deal with that. But you know, for me, I think what I noticed is things that I was maybe sensitive to before, I'm even more sensitive to now. And so it might be that you were not at all sensitive to any of these things previously, but that we can acquire these sensitivities, particularly as we pass through time. And I sound like a Doctor Who there, don't I, for a minute? Just step in the TARDIS and travel through time. Anyway, so but you know what I mean. So things, you know, they're always trying to sell us something to make us smell good, and actually, what do we love to make us smell good, Claire? We love the oils. I love the aromatherapy oils.
Absolutely. So exactly. And they're so natural, they're not going to cause any compromise. I wouldn't necessarily advocate putting them inside your vagina, but you know, if it was an issue and you wanted to kind of, you know, scent your pants, then you might consider adding a few drops to your washing load. And that way you can make your clothes smell nice, especially if you use a kind of natural washing. Like I've got a ball with soap nuts in it. If anybody's using those kind of things, that's how you add kind of nice smells into your laundry. Or even just a drop of lavender oil in your the gusset of your pants, you know, is not going to cause any problem and is actually going to be quite beneficial. It's not going to disturb the flora and fauna. I mean, obviously, I'd rather you treated it from the inside by making sure you're eating and drinking and not using any artificial creams or creams full of all these nasty preservatives which imbalance that microbiome. But if you were really someone that was just like, this is so important to me, then I'd say, okay, let's use essential oils. Let's try lavender, which is really skin friendly and full of lots of lovely properties that are antibacterial, like bad bacterial and things like that. It's a gentle one.
I think, for me, this has been a lifestyle for just as forever. And so it's entirely natural for me to do these things. For people who have, been able to use scented products and perfumes and also you kind of get used to the fact that everything smells of something, whereas in my house, nothing smells of anything and what's quite funny is now everybody in the house is allergic to this stuff. So we go on holiday, and I was the one who was allergic, and then obviously I had children. So now we all go on holiday, and if we go in a hotel, we all end up with a rash from the bed sheets or something. Seriously, because we just can't tolerate the scented, perfumed laundry detergents or whatever it is that they're using. So it may be alien territory for you, but that's removing these toxins essentially from products. They're toxic to the body, aren't they? Really, they're not they're
good.
Artificial chemical induced aromas.
Absolutely. And I have to confess that when I went to a girls' boarding school, and so vaginal health, all of this stuff was really kind of, we discussed it, but we were like, oh, horrible, this part of your body was so shameful. And so you did everything you could not to have any scent at all, and whether that be scented Tampax, scented panty liners, so I've done it all. And also being very sensory, I love smells. So before I knew better, as a young lady, obviously I was a lady, I really enjoyed anything that was scented because I didn't know what I was doing. Luckily, it didn't really affect me very much, but obviously I know better now, and certainly I've never used anything artificial in probably the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, I just know the Tesco the other week, they brought me some scented toilet paper, which I would never buy. Normally, they snuck it in there as a substitution, and I didn't notice. And I was using this paper, and before you knew it, I was in a pickle. I was in a pickle, and you can't believe that something so relative. What you would think it's innocuous, and yet for me that was definitely a no-no. So if you are having troubles, think of all these simple solutions before we start to go down the route of prescription medications or yes.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% behind you. And let's talk about movement, because as we were discussing, like one of the most important things and kind of where things can go wrong is the buildup of toxins in the body, which can create this dryness as well. You're not hydrated, things aren't moving along, things start to smell, it's uncomfortable, it's dry. And one of the best things to do is to get that lymph system, kickstart it, and to use movement to bring blood to the area. So let's hear what you give us tip-wise on movement, Philippa.
Well, I think there is not a health topic that we can talk about where movement is not beneficial. And so generally increasing the blood flow around the body is going to help to guard against dementia. And you know what? It's we've got dementia month, is it, or week or something? Yeah, it's around now. Somebody was posting about it yesterday. Your eyeballs, we can guard against macular degeneration just by doing cardiovascular type exercises, getting the heart rate up. And so there's no bit of the body that doesn't benefit from us pumping the blood around the body. And so increasing the heart rate with whatever you do. And so What we do know is that high intensity aerobic exercises increases the heart rate undoubtedly, but sometimes high intensity exercise can be overloading on our joints, say, for instance. It may be that you're carrying injuries, that you're not able to participate in those kinds of activities. It may actually be that you've got a weak pelvic floor that precludes you from doing things like running or star jumps. That's
Jumping,
yeah,
trampolining.
trampoline. Star jumps. I don't know why I'm laughing, but so, under those circumstances, what we do know is that resistance training is going to increase the blood flow around the whole of the body, and without maybe some of these potential side effects. So I am all about building the muscles at the minute. Claire knows this.
I do. I go to your classes. I think they're amazing.
Oh, that's very kind. So yeah, resistance training, body weight resistance. You might use a rubber band, or you may use a dumbbell or something. And by increasing the resistance, we just increase the intensity of the work, and therefore the heart is going to be pumping the blood around the body using the big muscle groups, the legs. That's going to be taking the blood around the body. And the other thing, of course, you talked about there was lymphatic flow. And I haven't done a Pilates or a yoga class when I got to the end where I didn't need to go to the bathroom. And that is because the muscle activation is stimulating the lymphatic flow. And actually, I was talking to, and so that's, promoting this dispersal of toxins. But I was talking to somebody, and there's an invention where you can put your legs into something that pumps air and squeezes your legs. Back in the day in the hospitals, we called it the Flowtron, and you would use it in a medical context for people who were bedbound, and they couldn't get out. So we're preventing blood clots, by using this machine, and it pumps and squashes the calf muscle, and then it releases and pumps and releases. And so basically, this machine, they sell this machine, and sports people use it so that it's like a passive way of exercising the lymph, pumping the lymph around the body, guarding against delayed onset muscle soreness. So the lengths some people will go to not
to do exercise. Although I guess for people that really are, as you say, in a position where they can't, then at least there's that. But for everybody else, you could body brush as well. That's so simple. Recommend daily body brushing. I'm body brushing every single morning after my shower, and that's a fabulous way of getting the lymph system going.
It really is. And so the lymph has no pump, does it? The heart, the circulation has the heart to pump it round, and the lymphatic system has no pump. And so we've got to assist, and really it is the muscles contracting and releasing that is going to pump the lymph around the body. And so that exercise will bring oxygen to all the cells. Oxygen is, the fuel that's needed for the cellular processes to take place, along with the nutrients, obviously. And then, of course, we can't talk about vaginas without talking about pelvic floor exercises. And so specifically targeting the muscles can guard against the atrophy that can occur, because obviously dryness is one thing, but vaginal atrophy, where the mucosal tissues are actually thinning and then becoming prone to tears. And so tears are excruciatingly painful. The dryness, the friction that can arise as a consequence of dryness is uncomfortable, undoubtedly. But the pain associated with tears is excruciating. And so to prevent the atrophy of tissues, exercises specifically for the vaginal tissues is indicated. And so we mentioned jumping on the trampoline as well, didn't we, Claire? And the need for panty liners may just be averted if we are doing these kinds of exercises on a regular basis. So The thing that lots of people are a little bit confused about is how to do a pelvic floor contraction and what it feels like when you're actually doing one. And so there's a couple of ways in which people make mistakes. And the key one is to contract the bottom muscles. That is the gluteus maximus, the big bottom cheek muscles. Now, if you see me going up and down here, Claire, can you see me just slightly going up and down? So if you're going up and down, if you're sitting down, you're going up and down, when you think you're doing pelvic floor exercises, then that's not what you're doing. You're tightening the bottom muscles, and that is not the pelvic floor. So think about the pelvic floor and the diaphragm as two domes which mirror one another. And when the diaphragm goes up, that's as you exhale. And when the diaphragm goes down, that's as you inhale. So think of the diaphragm inhaling the air into the lungs. It's drawing the air down. And so the cylinder around your torso, and then the diaphragm is the ceiling, and the pelvic floor is the floor. And these two structures, let me get that right, mirror one another in the way in which they move. So it's important, or one way of facilitating pelvic floor is to ensure that we are performing the contraction at the appropriate moment. So if you're trying to contract your pelvic floor, lift it up, that is, as you're bringing your diaphragm down, you can see this is creating pressure in the cylinder. And so actually it's better to, or easier to generate this activity in the pelvic floor as you exhale, because the diaphragm's going up, reducing the pressure in the cylinder. Think about your pelvic floor like a diamond shape, and the pubic bone is at the front, and the end of the coccyx, or the tailbone, is at the back. Now, if you were stood up or sat down, the diamond would be this way, parallel with the ceiling. I'm showing you the diamond this way. That's if you're lying down. So the two bones in your bottom are the 2 points at the side, yes? The bones that you sit on are the 2 points at the side. So we can think about making the diamond smaller from front to back. We can think about making the diamond smaller from side to side. We can think about making the diamond smaller from front to back and from side to side at the same time. Yes? Right. We can think about all the different openings. And us gals, we've got 3 openings, and for the most part, and the chaps just have the 2. Okay? So closing around the openings is another way of contracting the muscles of the pelvic floor. And of course, we've got the 3 openings. So you might think of the openings at the back, the opening at the back, the opening in the middle, and the opening nearer to the front. And so we're getting right down into the detail of being able to isolate movements to a very specific part of your body, which is something that we practice a lot in Pilates. This ability to connect your mind to those muscles and to generate tension in the bit of the body that you are targeting, rather than it being diffuse and all over. We can isolate. And so that's a skill that really comes into its own when we are learning these pelvic floor exercises. And so what I would ask people to do as a beginning point is to inhale through the nostrils. And then as you exhale, to think of closing around the openings, and to begin maybe at the back, go to the middle, and then the front opening. And then as you inhale again, just allow the relaxation to occur, because it's important that you can differentiate between tension and relaxation. Tension and relaxation. We don't want to generate overactivation either, because that wouldn't be good either. So, another thing that can be helpful is to sit on something like a ball, because when your perineum is the technical term, when your perineum is in contact with something, you're getting some sensory feedback. And that's going to help you to come to kind of understand a bit more about the bit of your body. And so sitting, we use these in Pilates, don't we? These soft Pilates balls, literally sitting on it, so that it's underneath your perineum, and I sit cross-legged like this. So I'm right on it. So I'm in no doubt where my perineum is because it's in contact with this ball, and then I can really focus my mind on it because I'm aware of that sensation, and then I can think maybe more easily about those bits of me. And then the other thing that I heard some time ago was to think of the pelvic floor like lifting up the centre of a handkerchief. I'm using this fabric here. So that when you're lifting in the pelvic floor, think of lifting in the centre of a handkerchief. So the vagina is in more or less in the middle of this, front to back area. And if you're thinking of lifting in the middle, generating the lift is what you're thinking of. And to do longer holds and shorter, more rapid contractions, a combination of both of those, because that's what you need for function. When the cough comes along to catch you out, I'm sure there were lots of people dreading coronavirus, if only for the pelvic floor, I wasn't looking forward to it, thinking incessant coughing, Anyway, so thinking of lifting the handkerchief, coordinate with the breath. And then last of all, there is something that I know we've talked about, which is called hypopressives. And this is something that we do in yoga, creating a vacuum inside the body. And by creating a vacuum in this cavity, invariably you're going to generate lift in the pelvic floor. So to create the vacuum, if you remember, generally when you're doing this, you would lean forwards and in a forward kneeling kind of position. I'll do it on all fours just for the sake of argument. And I'll show you my actual flesh. And I know that's my actual flesh cake. Can you believe it? So I'm just letting it be there. I'm not doing anything. And then if I exhale, emptying all the air out of my lungs, and then hold the air out of my lungs empty. I'll do that in a minute when I'm not talking. And then I'm going to draw the contents up towards the spine. So letting all the air out of my lungs and empty. And then I'm drawing.
Wow. You look like a whippet.
Yeah. And then let it go. I look like a whippet. That's it.
You do. That's amazing. And I do remember doing that. And I do remember you telling me, and I find it really powerful.
Yeah. So it's basically creating a vacuum inside you. It's going to cause your pelvic floor to lift. And this is called hyperpressives. And there's a whole hyperpressive movement out there. So again, if you were standing up, exhaling all the air out of the lungs and then generating that. So you can see the difference when I breathe then.
Yes, great.
By generating the vacuum, then you're actually creating lift in the pelvic floor, because the key thing with the pelvic floor is really knowing you're doing it right, and the final thing is to actually insert a finger, because when you're in the shower, just insert a finger and have a go at doing your pelvic floor. And if you're not feeling anything on your finger, then you know that there's, it's not happening. And maybe two fingers might be more appropriate. Depending how many 9-pound babies you had, like me, Claire. Yeah.
That was my immediate thought. I think that depends on how many children you've had.
Yeah, a couple of 9-pounders with big heads.
I had big babies too.
Did you? I know, and and like I said, I think I wrote about this. Number one, I felt like I really got away with number one. Number two, definitely, no. Anyway, so did you learn anything? Is there anything new there? Did you know it all already?
I didn't know. I mean, I obviously know that females have 3 holes. I am female. But I didn't know, because I don't get a lot of sensation around my urethra.
Mm.
urethra.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that I was supposed to include that in a pelvic, and I wouldn't even know how to, because that area in me, it's been repacked as part of my surgery, doesn't carry a lot of sensitivity or sensory information. So would that just be included when I was doing things? I mean, can you isolate that part of your body? Can you really pelvic floor it? You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. So this is, and that's pretty key for stopping the flow of urine if you think about it.
Mm.
So yes, the thing I know what you mean about sensation, and I think when I do that contraction around the front opening, the urethra, as you say, I'm not feeling the tube. It's not
Yeah.
the tube that I'm feeling, but it is definitely forward of the vagina.
There's more in the clitoral area, I would say.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Yeah.
more there, just
Yeah.
to kind of put a
Yeah.
lump into it. But no, just in terms of practicality, then okay, that makes sense. I can kind of get there then.
Right. Okay. So now we know where that is. So after 50 odd years, we just about established where that is.
I'm 45. I'm not 50 yet.
Oh, sorry. Well, no, I'm talking purely. Oh dear. So Claire's 45, but oh yeah. And so prematurely menopausal, sadly for Claire, which, but maybe not. The wisdom has come to Claire even sooner. How about that, Claire?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't miss my periods at all. And I think there's a lot more women that have surgical menopause than you would necessarily think. I know these things go in and out of trend.
Yeah.
And they went out of trend, but I think they kind of come back in, because I've met lots of women or spoken to lots of women, clients, etc., that have gone through this as well. So we include all of them. But and the menopause is a brilliant experience once you know how to treat your symptoms, and as you say, the wisdom and the freedom that it brings you afterwards. I'm just going to give a couple of other organic lubricants that people might like to try.
Okay.
You can use extra virgin olive oil. Not something to use with a condom, though, because that's an example, as you were talking earlier, about something that might be compromised. It might compromise the integrity of the condom. So if you are using condoms, then you might want to think of an aloe vera-based lubricant, because that is a water-based lubricant and won't compromise your condom. Vitamin E oil. Extra virgin coconut oil is a very popular one, because if we think about that,
I'm laughing at that. I love that. I love that stuff.
Well, now you know where you can put it, and because it's solid, you can easily apply it, and it's not going to cause it. I mean, obviously, it goes running on contact with heat, but it smells lovely, and that's just such a natural smell. So anybody that's really into coconut. And then there's CBD oil, which has the added benefit of a bit of pain relief. So if people are feeling really tender down there because they're dry, or they haven't had a lot of action, or for whatever reason, CBD oil is something you might like to apply down there safely as well, which will help with some of the pain. There are oils that can do that as well, but we're looking for that really oily consistency, really. And most oils aren't that.
And certainly when I did that podcast, she was talking about having to sort of reapply, particularly with the water-based, reapplication during, intercourse. I know. So somehow you have to bring that in. Well, anyway, the water-based is more likely to be absorbed, isn't it? Because, that's the whole...
But that does reach a point, if you're eating right, drinking right, when you will be, your mucous membranes will be sufficiently kind of plump and hydrated and oiled up. So I would say if you're literally putting on water-based lubricant and it's disappearing at a faster rate than not, then you basically are seriously dehydrated. Okay. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, you make a good point. No, somebody said about the coconut oil. I like that. It keeps it
lady.
Yeah, it never occurred to me to try that, but I love coconut oil. What was it the other day? Something, anything that smells of coconut, I'm there. I love it. So
Makes people feel like they've gone on holiday. How to add a holiday vibe to the bedroom.
holiday romance with your coconut oil. Drink some Malibu, and you'll be. Oh no, we shouldn't, because we don't want to get dehydrated. Anyway,
Absolutely.
much as I love our conversations, and I do, I have an appointment that I need to depart. So, and I'm sure you've got lots of things to get busy with. Children, Claire,
I
isn't it?
do. Yes. Yes, let's not talk about children, but absolutely. And also, yeah, I've got a short period of time left before I have to go and collect them. But I hope everybody feels that they know a lot more about vaginal health and dryness than they did before they got on this call. And they've got lots of useful tips and tricks from us on how to be well.
Yeah, be well. So take care. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Take care. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye now.